My name is Jafri Kaiti. I adopt this name, but when I was born, my legal name is Jean Elissaint Saint-Vil, and I am a retired Canadian civil servant and full-time activist, social justice activist currently. I can identify a couple of events that have been instrumental in getting me to understand what type of struggle for justice is happening in the world and my own questioning of what role I can play in it. And the first one I can think of is while I was in university, and it was the time of fight against apartheid in South Africa. And I was at the time a very religious person studying Christianity and being the son of a Anglican priest. In Haiti, we call it the Episcopalian. My father was an Episcopalian priest, and his father before him. And I was studying with the Plain Truth magazine folks, Herbert W. Walker, and all of these folks, and Jehovah Witness and Seventh Day Adventist, all of these people. I was reading their publications, and I used to always feel frustrated that I don't see these religious dogmas and denominations say anything about the outrageous discrimination and violence against people of African descent, especially as I was a student at University of Waterloo. I was visited by people from Jehovah Witnesses, and they would invite me to their events. And I recall in one instance, I invited them to participate in an anti-apartheid demonstration, and their answer to me was that they don't deal with matters of this world. And I said, well, then get the hell out of my house. If you don't deal with matters that are important to me, why would I be sitting down listening to you about your so-called God? And so I started to be a little bit impatient with never seeing my people in the first page of the book. Visit of one um, major player to the University of Waterloo really got me going when Kwame Ture, who was previously known as Stokely Carmichael, was invited by the African Student Association, which I joined. At that time, I became president of the Caribbean Student Association at the University of Waterloo. And Kwame Ture came to campus and spoke. And the fact that in the organizing committee meeting, when we were talking to him, this man was telling our team about the Haitian Revolution. When I introduced myself and I said to him that I was born in Haiti, and then that got him going, talking about I was mesmerized by this man, how much he knew about a revolution that I was supposed to know about, and I realized how much I didn't know about my own story, and started to learn a little bit more, read a bit more. But just this one individual who was a Black Panther who walked with Dr. Martin Luther King, with Malcolm X, and at the time he had returned to Africa. I say return, although he was actually born in the Caribbean, but he decided to leave the United States and go live in Guinea. And so this man had a profound impact on me. So that's one. And then the second event is the 1991 coup in Haiti. 1991 is a year of tremendous upheaval in my personal life. It's the year my father passed away, and so it's the year of my graduation from university. So I returned to Haiti, seeing him um, dying. He died of liver cirrhosis, and so it was a painful, slow death. And that same year, there was a major political event in Haiti. For the first time, the black majority managed to put their own leadership in place by electing a former uh, liberation theologian, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, president. And it so happens that in the final year of my studies, I took a liberation theology course, started to read about Ernesto Cardenal, and Leonardo Boff and all of this movement of people who were trying to make sense of all of these moralities that are in Christianity and apply it in real life. That was, for peasants in Latin America. But I clearly understood that, well, this is exactly what my father was trying to do. This is what all of these people were trying to do, working with peasants and trying to better their lives, etc. But they weren't talking about white Jesus. They were really talking about human beings being true to each other and helpful to each other and improving lives. They elected President Aristide um, in Haiti. I was absolutely proud to have been in the country during those first months of his presidency. I had no idea at the time it was going to be something instrumental in the lives of our people because that presidency lasted only 7 months. And even before he swore in as president, there was an attempted coup. And I was there also at the time. And in fact, that attempted coup, which happened January 6, 1991, so 1 month before the elected president swore in, I videotaped it because I was there, okay, like the before and after the coup, the attempted coup, because the coup was stopped in the early hours of the morning of 7th of January, 1991. And so, in fact, the videotape of the attempted coup was part of my final exam for the liberation theologian course. When I returned to Waterloo, because my father was sick at the time, I had submitted my video as part of my report on having witnessed a liberation theologian becoming president for the first time in a country. And so, of course, I had high marks. So I became very aware that white supremacy is not something of the past. It's not something that, you know, marked our history and then, Martin Luther King came and everything came right. No, that's not how it happened. And it's a continual struggle. Uh, and it's not like a comic book where you have the good guys and the bad guys and you just join the good guys and everything is okay. Lots of betrayals. And so, yeah, I became very much dedicated to learning more and also understanding that the single experience that I was living in Haiti um, is actually that a reality that most of the planet is living. And that the life I was living in Canada as a student before that, and then after the coup, when I returned to Canada, was really one of a sheltered, privileged member of humanity. Then, we had the war, the Iraq war, or the invasion of Iraq, I should say. It started to be aware that yes, there are people who wake up in the morning and they find their city is being bombarded and they have no power over what has led to that and they cannot stop it. And I started to realize that yes, we are living in a very unjust world. Um, and unfortunately, some of these decisions that are made to invade another people's country are made where I live in Canada by my government. The government which later on I started working for in 1992. And so a lot of these things started to ingrain in me that I cannot be a mere spectator in what is happening in the world, and whatever impact my voice might have, I should get it out there. So I started participating in demonstrations. Um, in Haiti, we did some sort of passive resistance against the coup regime. But like I said, barely a month later, I spent a month in Miami with my mother, who was also in Haiti at the time, hoping that the coup was going to be overturned so that we could return to Haiti. This didn't happen, so we ended up coming back to Ottawa. And barely a year later, um, looking for jobs, sending CVs everywhere, I ended up finding a job with um, the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, which is the equivalent of the NSF in the United States. It funds research in Canada in the federal system. And so that's where I basically conducted my professional career, having graduated in science. So it was the perfect job for me. And so I did my essentially 30 years of public service with this agency, and in the final 4 years with McGill University, in the research administration office. Uh, but in parallel to my so-called professional life, I kept involved in activism. Activism is not formal work, and that's the most difficult part of it, because you are kind of reacting to world events, and they are not stimulating things. They're things that simply you cannot let go. Um, like I always say to people, I enjoy jazz. I enjoy soccer. I'd rather be doing other things than activism, right? If the motivation for activism would disappear, I'd be the happiest person. So it's not like, so I spent many years doing radio. Most of my activism took place through public speaking, radio shows that I hosted a program called Bouillon Racine for the past 34 years in Ottawa with Ottawa University, and then Carleton U also, another one, which I just stopped last month. Now, um, in terms of participating in street demonstrations with organizations such as Canada Haiti Action Network, the Solidarité Québec Haïti, and then collaborating with comrades in New York with Komokoda. These are, like I said, sporadic demonstrations. Demonstrations against the blockade on Cuba. Just last night, I was at one of those demonstrations. Um, it's really, I don't know what else, because awareness is important, education is important. A lot of people are not aware of realities that individuals are living in different countries. So in the case of Haiti in particular, I consider that my voice was important because you will not find many Haitians who are articulate in English, who are willing to take that kind of stand. There are a few of us, and what makes it even more difficult is that there are topics when an articulate black person raised them on national television, the interview ends very abruptly. Okay. So, one example is reparations. The issue of reparations that I have been part of that struggle for a number of decades now, I realized that, you know, once they invite you on CBC, Radio Canada, and stuff, if you're lamenting about the plight of Haitians, they're all good, they're happy. But if you move to a space where you're talking about, no, no, we're not here to lament about, the situation of family members. This is not about voyeurism. Okay, what we're saying is that there has been a crime against humanity, and these people demand reparations. And all of a sudden, they are not interested in you anymore, and so the interview would end. There'd be a last question posed. I would say at first, yeah, I was in the group of people who were hoping to influence policy. And so Canada Haiti Action Network, we met, like I said, with Alexa McDonald, with others, and I was among the people who thought that we can make a difference if we bring enough awareness to politicians, and they will make the right policies. Honestly, I would say this is way past. I don't believe in that anymore. I am convinced that people are well aware of what they're doing, and that's what they choose to do. And so I have shifted my focus on Black people. My focus is people of African descent, uh, in particular those of us who've been Christianized, um, to realize that I mean I share my journey. Like I said, I grew up in the church. Um, I was so religious that when my soccer team is going to play, I would get on my knees and pray so that my team wins. Yeah. Like, I was a big fan of Racine Club Haïtien, which is one of the Haitian clubs. And of course, all Haitians are fans of Brazil, and etc. But what I meant is that it was a very childish and naive posture. And I take the example of something as trivial as a soccer game. But in reality, in the lives of many people of African descent today, there is a disempowerment that we cause to ourselves by this hyper religiosity, which causes us to not mobilize our actual power and to be waiting for what I call extraterrestrials. So now I put Jesus and all of these things as part of the invisible extraterrestrials who don't really exist. Okay, um, but it's a huge step to go from being a believer to naming these things non-entities. Okay, it's a huge step, uh, and I understand that people need to be accompanied as they do this um, rediscovery of self. That's how I call it. And so that's why I started this program. I published my book Vive Bon Dia Ba Religion in 2000 in Haitian Creole, and a couple of years ago I started a YouTube program on my YouTube channel, the program titled God is Not White. And this is what my focus is, trying to share with people, everybody, but like I said, my main focus is people of African descent, what the history of Judeo Christianity is, the factual research stuff about how did Judaism come into being, who wrote the books, because it was a shock to me as I was doing research for my book how much of this is actually documented. Like in the book of Luke, it tells you that what I'm writing here is from what I've heard. And now with the Dead Sea Scrolls, um, the Nag Hammadi documents of 1959, and all of these things that have been published, it's now possible, and especially with all of these things being digitalized, you can go and look at the timeline of how Christianity, Judeo Christianity, came into being. And I focus in my presentation about who made the decisions that these 60 books, 66 books, are the Word of God. And when you know who these white men were, okay, who voted at the Council of Nicaea that Jesus is 100% God, and then later on voted that he's 100% human, and then made all of these decisions to call people anathema when they don't accept to subdue themselves and accept the dogma of the church, and they were killed like Savonarola and others. When you share the history of Judeo-Christianity with people, a lot of folks are surprised because this is never taught in school, in church. Church doesn't talk about history of Christianity. Many Christians are startled when they learn that Jesus was not Christian. It's like, what do you mean? Yep, think about it 1 minute. You don't need 2 minutes. Okay. And why do you have more words of Paul than you have of Jesus in your Christian Bible? And then you start to look at the history of how Judeo Christianity came to encounter the African world and why it makes absolutely no sense for an African people of sane mind to be kneeling in front of a statue of Leonardo da Vinci praying for good things to happen in their lives. Like, I mean, this is such a revolting thing that when I think about it, it's like, that was me? Wow. So, to me, my activism in debunking white supremacy masquerading as religion under the guise of Judeo Christianity, that's the new phase of my activism. Another element I'd like to mention in closing, because I mentioned, the raging grannies as, women who really inspired hope in me while doing this activism with the Canada Haiti Action Network and Solidarité Québec Haïti. Uh, Yves Engler, who is a Canadian activist, a brother that I came to know and love as part of the activism with Canada Haiti Action Network. I knew him as a young activist, um, and I must admit, in the Haitian community, we became very suspicious of white liberals who join our movements. And so our early conversations with Eve were sometimes rough and difficult because we didn't trust him. And point blank, we told him why we didn't trust him because he's white. And the conflict in Haiti is a black and white conflict. You cannot sidestep it, try to pretend you don't see it. It's there. Okay? The nations that came together to overthrow the president of Haiti are led by white people. The people who control the economy of Haiti are a white minority, and their alliance is with white controlled nations. It's not a coincidence. And so a lot of people got really annoyed with me because I focus a lot on the racial aspect of the conflict. And the reason why I focus on it is because they spend all of their energy trying to hide it. If we would just admit the thing, because it's there, it's in our face. And the fact that we're not dealing with it causes a lot of frictions. Like I mentioned, we were suspicious of Eve for no good reason, but we had to test him. And it's over time by him doing his research and sharing the information about how Canada was complicit. Like that, these are things I didn't know. I learned them from Eve. Publishing about Canada's role in the overthrow of Patrice Lumumba in the Congo, and participating in all kinds of other crimes of white supremacy over the years. And he published that in his book, um, the Black Book of Canadian Foreign Policy, and his book on Haiti, Canada in Haiti. um, I must say, uh, it is both an element of hope to see that people like Eve Engler exist, um, um, but also of despair when you observe that in 2025, as we speak, a so called progressive leftist party in Canada denies this decent human being an opportunity to run for the leadership of the NDP. Why? Because he clearly observes that there is a genocide going on in Palestine.